All right, good morning, everybody. This is the Fantasy Sports Boss. Welcome to the Fantasy Sports Boss Fantasy Football Podcast. It is July 4th. Happy 4th of July to everybody. I hope everybody has a safe and enjoyable, restful July 4th. But July 4th also means that we are now closer to training camp starting. And of course, the big news of this past week was that Dallas Cowboys ace wideout CeeDee Lamb, who's the number one wideout in fantasy, probably by a sizable margin, and is even in consideration, certainly in my opinion, to be the number one player in the draft for 2024 fantasy football drafts, is expected to hold out in training camp. So we're going to talk about that. Also going to talk about the Eagles offense setup and what that's going to look like. Some news coming out of Arizona regarding James Conner's availability and how much of the workload he's going to have there. And also the curse of the number one pick. Recent number one picks, overall consensus number one picks have done nothing but flop. We'll talk about that. Who should be the number one pick again this year? So we're going to cover all that now. Make sure you're a subscriber, guys. More podcasts, live streams are going to be coming. All of these good things that are going to make up the bulk of the season. So make sure you're involved in that. Any breaking news from now really through the season, I'll be first with that. As anybody who as a subscriber on Sunday knows, as soon as an injury hits, I have a video up within a minute discussing what happened and update it throughout. So you'll get the best news here, hands down, the quickest news as well. Now, as far as CeeDee Lamb is concerned, when we hear about these training camp holdouts, it becomes kind of in one ear out the other. These things happen all the time. Certainly, the bigger name player, the more attention is paid to it, but nobody ever took this seriously. That is until Le'Veon Bell held out for an entire season. Okay, and that changed the nexus of how to handle and view and adjust when it comes to fantasy football drafts when situations like this arise. Now, there is no indication right now that CeeDee Lamb is going to be held out for games that count. Le'Veon Bell to me is still the exception and not the rule. I still can't believe he did that, and it ruined his season. Anybody who's even thinking of that now has to look at what happened to Le'Veon Bell after that. He was the number one player in fantasy football for a 2 or 3 year stretch with the Steelers. Do everything back. He was an absolute goldmine in fantasy, but he held out for an entire season when he was still a top 5 pick in a lot of leagues. Did not play a single down, and from that point on, was just a complete bust, like a shell of his former self. That year off just ruined his career. He did nothing with the Jets. He caught on with a couple of teams after that, Ravens and Chiefs. Nothing came about it, and he was toast, just like that. So I don't think anybody who's drafting now, which you really shouldn't, and not only with just injuries, but also holdouts like this with CeeDee Lamb, give it as much time as you can, because what if CeeDee Lamb does hold out for a game or two? I don't think that's going to happen. If I had a draft tomorrow, I would take CeeDee Lamb number one overall. No doubt about it. You know how I feel about the ace wide receivers number one overall, and I would take him over Christian McCaffrey. No questions asked, because this Dallas offense, again, is very tight in terms of the targets. You have CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, who came on at the end of last season, but is not the speedster that he was earlier in his career. And then you have Ferguson, the tight end, who I actually really like. Heavily targeted around the goal line, didn't have as many touchdowns as you really should have, and I think that's going to move toward more scores for him this year, and I think he's going to be more heavily involved in the offense, and he looks like a tremendous value. But I like this Dallas passing attack. Hate to say it as a Giants fan, here you go, but I'm all in on CeeDee Lamb, and he helped me win a league championship last year, so I would certainly go back on him this year. So at this point, we're not going to worry about it. Hopefully they get a deal done. Dallas has a lot of issues contract-wise. I mean, they have Dak Prescott, the quarterback, with over a $50 million cap hit, which is just ridiculous. I mean, how much money did these guys need? Seriously. Like that, if you're Dak Prescott, there was not a lot of money left over to handle the running back position, so they had to bring back Ezekiel Elliott. If you're Dak and you want to win and you flamed out how many times in the playoffs, it's easy for me to say give back some money, but work something out cap-wise. We saw Tom Brady do this for years. Aaron Rodgers, as much of a jerk as he is, he's done it as well. Dak Prescott needs to get off the soapbox and just help out the team cap-wise. He should have done that already, and that would have helped matter. This is not a Super Bowl team, no doubt about it, but this is a playoff team. Could have been much more than that if they had the money to sign maybe a Saquon Barkley, a Josh Jacobs. So, but that didn't happen. Now, speaking of Saquon Barkley, so there was a report that came out Jeremy Fowler, who thinks that Saquon is going to have a Christian McCaffrey type impact in Philadelphia. I thought this was a puzzling thing on a number of fronts. Now, I've been front and center a witness to Saquon Barkley since coming into the league as a Giants fan, right? Certainly his rookie year was as good as anything Christian McCaffrey's ever done. Like, that was just a beyond spectacular rookie performance. One of the greatest performances I've ever seen fantasy-wise, not only from a first-year back, but from any back. Like, it was that good. He caught over 90 passes. He ran for 1 million yards, scored touchdowns all over the fucking place. Like, he was unbelievable. But then the injuries started. Torn ACL, severely sprained ankle, multiple ankle sprains, missed time 3 of his 6 years with the Giants, and just never really got that top shelf burst back that he had when he was with Penn State and initially with the Giants. Like, anybody who's watched Barkley, that second gear hasn't really been there since the ACL tear. But he's still a really, really good player. Like, he did as well as he possibly could have done last year on the Giants team that perpetually had offensive line issues. 962 yards on the ground, 6 scores, 41 catches, 280 yards, another 4 scores. So 10 touchdowns. The receptions, they've never come close to the 90 plus as his rookie year. The last 3 years, 41, 57, and 41. Has missed time each of the last 3 years, 4 games in 01, 1 game in 2022, 3 in 2023. But the Eagles view him as the missing piece. DeAndre Swift did some good things, but he wasn't the answer. All right, and Boston Scott, Kenneth Gainwell, they're just complementary pieces. Saquon Barkley is a bell cow back. I don't think there's any question about it. But that being said, I'm probably not going to have any shares of Saquon Barkley. He's going to be a late first-round pick, early second-round pick in most leagues. I think he's still living off of that rookie performance. I really believe that. He's been aggressively drafted every year of his career because a lot of that is the memory of his rookie performance. Really good player, don't get me wrong, but has not come close to that level. Now, he's going to be working with the best offensive line he's ever had. Jason Kelsey's off in retirement, but the rest of the offensive line is still tremendous. But here's the issue I have, and it's twofold. There's 2 problems here. One is that Jalen Hurts doesn't throw to his running backs. He's never done that. He had DeAndre Swift last year, who was a major receiving weapon out of the backfield when he was healthy with the Lions, and he didn't do much of anything in the passing game last year. Hurts would rather tuck it and run. I sound like a broken record, but this is what mobile quarterbacks do. Whether you're Anthony Richardson, whether you're Lamar Jackson, whether you're Jalen Hurts, they don't throw to their running backs. Are they going to change this offense enough? Is Kellen Moore going to, obviously when he was with the Chargers, Austin Eckler caught 1 million passes, but he did not have the mobile quarterback that Jalen Hurts is. They are going to be using more tight ends. Dallas Goedert should be more involved. I don't think Saquon Barkley I don't think he's catching 60 passes. I think he's going to be in the 40s, which is still a good number. And then the second issue is what's going to happen. This is one of the biggest themes of the season. What's going to happen with the tush push? Jalen Hurts been beat up the last couple of years. Now he no longer has Jason Kelsey, who supplied that initial burst up the middle. It was a gold mine, absolute gold mine. It was the easiest play in football. 15 touchdowns on the ground last year for Hurts, 13 the year before, 10 the year before. Like, that's just unbelievable production. How many of those, though, will Saquon Barkley steal? And vice versa. How many touchdowns will Barkley lose to the tush push? Will the tush push still be as effective without Jason Kelsey? This really is a bigger issue that not a lot of people are talking about when it comes to valuing Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley. All right, there's a lot of still injury risk with Barkley. He's an older back. I know he's missed a lot of time, but there's, wear and tear there. Jalen Hurts, not the biggest quarterback. He's had some injuries himself. He missed time in 21. He missed time in 22. Played every game last year, but he didn't throw the ball well. If you just look at passing metrics, Jalen Hurts wasn't good. 23 passing scores, 15 interceptions. He lost 5 fumbles. Like, he was a turnover machine. There were rumblings in that locker room that the Philadelphia Daily News had reported that the team was getting upset internally with Hurts because he was so careless with the football. So I'm not sold on him. He's not my number one quarterback. I have it Allen, Mahomes, Hurts. Because until we see what this breakdown is going to be in this offense, I trust Allen and Mahomes more. Okay? I have Joe Burrow as QB4, even though right now he's being drafted QB7. We've been over that a million times. I think he's much more stable than Lamar Jackson in terms of performance. So I don't know what to expect there when it comes to the Eagles and Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts, and their values are really going to be at the mercy of that setup there offensively. All right, next big thing that caught my eye. James Conner. The Arizona coaching staff has done nothing but talk him up. So James Conner is expected to be the bell cow back again for the Arizona Cardinals this upcoming season. Now, listen, James Conner, I have really fond memories of last year. He helped me win a title. I had the one league I won out of my two last year, I had James Conner. He was a running back zero guy for me. Him, David Montgomery, Rashad White, James Cook. The zero running back crowd won last year. Okay? He averaged over 5 yards per carry, which was a career high. He's still a really good player. He's 29. He misses time every year, an average of 3 to 4 games every year, which is a lot. All right, we know Trey Benson. He's like he's the chic, handcuff rookie running back that everybody's going after this year. But James Conner will still help you. Now they've dialed back the pass receiving part of his game. He caught 46 passes in 2022, 27 last year. So they're fading that out a little bit. Why? Kyler Murray's a mobile quarterback. Now he's got a tight end in Trey McBride, who's an ace receiving tight end. Now he's got Marvin Harrison Jr. So the reception part of the equation for James Conner just may not be there. But in PPR leagues, he's still a solid running back too. It was amazing last year. The dead zone running backs, I mean, Raheem Mostert, Alvin Kamara, there were so many of those guys last year that just took off in that area code. Like I said, for me, I have a lot of fond memories of James Conner. If he really drops a lot, I know how to get a year early, get out of Dodge a year early when it comes to these players. And that's the feeling I have with Conner. I'd rather be out a year early. He did good things for me last year. He helped me win a championship. I'm moving away from him this year. That's how I'm handling it this year with James Conner, unless he drastically falls. Everybody's got a price that I'm willing to draft him at. But I'm not going to go crazy when it comes to chasing him this season. All right, nothing doing with Brandon Ayuk and the 49ers. There is no deal imminent. He's been speaking openly about getting traded. This is big. This is a potentially big situation when it comes to fantasy. I think if you put Brandon Ayuk on 15 other teams in this league, his fantasy value will go up. I mean, Jesus, could you imagine him on the San Francisco 49? On the Kansas City Chiefs. Could you imagine him in that offense? Right? Or Green Bay with an emerging Jordan Love. Like, I would be all in on him. I'm not in on Samuel and I'm not in on Ayuk, even though I respect both players. I've been a long time detractor of Deebo Samuel because he's very touchdown dependent and he misses a lot of time. I like Ayuk a lot more. I think he's a stud. He's an absolute stud. Yards per catch dynamo. He's a big time talent. But he's handcuffed in this offense with George Kittle, with Deebo Samuel, with McCaffrey out of the backfield, with a very run-heavy offense. They didn't throw the ball last year. The 49ers and the Ravens, with Brock Purdy and Lamar Jackson, as productive as they are, they did it more on a per-pass basis. They didn't throw the ball often enough to feel comfortable drafting any of the receivers from these teams. Talking about Baltimore, talking about San Francisco. You want to draft receivers that are in offenses that are going to get plentiful targets. All right? So I'm watching this situation closely. If he gets traded to the right situation, I'm all in on Ayuk, but right now I'm fading him. All right, the next item on the list that I wanted to talk about today, and this is what I do in these podcasts, is things that catch my eye during the week that I want to talk about. The quarterback situation, getting back there. I talked about C.J. Stroud right now, how everybody's in on him. He's the number 5 quarterback right now still. He's been number 5 consistently since May. I love C.J. Stroud. I love his fantasy potential, but I hate that spot. I still think Joe Burrow is the better buy at QB7. And here's the thing. And I do a feature where I say, don't draft this guy, take this guy instead. So I'll be doing a lot of those in the next couple of weeks. I can tell you right now, do not draft C.J. Stroud at QB5. Instead, draft Jordan Love at QB9. I believe that's where Love is now. I think Kyler Murray is QB10, Jordan Love is QB9. Both guys are second-year starters. Both guys are in explosive passing offenses with a lot of burgeoning young talent. The only thing is, Jordan Love runs more. 167 rushing yards for Stroud, 247 for Love. Love, 4 touchdowns on the ground, 3 for Stroud. I think that certainly at QB9, they're very similar players. The setup is similar. The offense is similar. Love is the better buy at QB9. Hell, Kyler Murray, QB10, certainly Joe Burrow, QB7. All much better buys than C.J. Stroud. But for comparable stocks, Love and Stroud work the best because they're both young second-year starters. They can run. Love runs more. Young, explosive talent. I think that Jordan Love is the better buy there, for sure. And you can get him a little bit later in drafts. Now, I saw something the other day about the number 1 pick. Christian McCaffrey obviously is the consensus number 1 pick. You know, it seems like he's been the consensus number 1 pick more times than any player in fantasy football history. Like, it just goes to show you what a great player he's been. And certainly he's made 33 of 34 starts the last 2 seasons. So the durability has been there the last 2 years, whereas 2001, it wasn't. So he's the number 1 guy. Now, if it's me, if I could trade the number 1 pick, I would. I hate the number 1 pick. It takes way too long to come back to you in the next round. The bust opportunity is big, which I'm going to get into. I'd much rather have the ace wide out and then go 0 running back again. Look for that value. When I say 0 running back, I'm talking about like round 4, 5, 6. So it's really not 0 running back. It's kind of value running back. And like I said, it really worked out well last year. But to me, it's CeeDee Lamb number 1. I understand the Christian McCaffrey crowd. There's actually some people that are talking about Breece Hall, Jamar Chase. You know, I like Bijan Robinson and Breece Hall equally. I'm a little bit worried about the Jets bringing in the big rookie from Wisconsin and maybe be a goal line back. I'm slightly worried about that. We'll see how that plays out. I think Bijan Robinson is a stud. Tyler Algier, nice player, but I don't think he's going to get as many goal line carries as he did last season. But listen to, the last couple of years, the last 3 years, the consensus number 1 pick is bombed. Justin Jefferson last year missed time with injury. Didn't even finish as a top 25 fantasy wide receiver. The year before that, Jonathan Taylor missed multiple games with injury. He crapped out. The year before that, Christian McCaffrey, number 1 guy, I think played only 3 games that year. He crapped out. So the number 1 pick has been a curse. It hasn't been very profitable at all, to say the least. I'd rather not have that number 1 pick. I'd rather trade that number 1 pick. To me, I always start fantasizing this time of the year about where I want to end up in the first round. I'm trying to see. All right, where's my cheat sheet here? I'm looking through one of the magazines that has the guys ranked. Where would I rather be? To me, I certainly love CeeDee Lamb, but that's the number 1 pick. So I don't want to end up with the number 1 pick, all right? Running backs, would I take a running back in round 1? The only running back now I feel comfortable taking in round 1 is Bijan Robinson. I'm not comfortable with any of the other guys. Even Breece Hall, like, is the kid from Wisconsin going to take touchdowns away from him? I don't know. Aaron Rodgers only twice in 15 years has completed more than 50 passes to a running back, the same running back. So that's a trend there that you have to be aware of. So I'm not liking any of those guys. So for me, and I'm not drafting a tight end. So for me, it's the wide receivers, and this is what I'm thinking about in round one. I love CeeDee Lamb number 1. I would take Jamar Chase number 3, or maybe even number 2. Justin Jefferson, he burned me last year. The league, I took him number 1. I still won the league. And how did I ended up with CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson? I made a trade midway through the season for CeeDee Lamb. That's how I was able to acquire him. And actually, it was funny because it came after the first 3 games when Lamb wasn't doing much of anything. And I traded a red-hot Raheem Mostert and Garrett Wilson for Lamb. And it really worked out, to say the least. Not taking Tyreek Hill. Amon-Ra St. Brown. I love St. Brown. And that he's going to be in that 6-7 range. So you'd have to be there. And to me, that's the sweet spot because I could take Amon-Ra St. Brown at 6 or 7 and then in round 2 come back with Mike Evans. I would love Mike Evans in round 2. I think the round 2 receivers are really, really shaky. Cooper Kupp, Debo, Devontae Adams, Jalen Waddle. These are guys that could go in round 2. I don't want any of those guys. I don't want Cooper Kupp for injuries and age, and now that he's been pushed aside by Puka Nacua. I don't want Debo Samuel. Like, I never wanted him each of the last 3 years because he's very touchdown dependent. He's always hurt, and it's a very run-heavy offense. I don't want Jalen Waddle. Second wide receivers, we talked about this a long time. Second wide receivers on the same team always disappoint in terms of their numbers. T. Higgins, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith last season. And then there's Mike Evans. I think Mike Evans in the middle of the second round, I would love to start that way. If you could start Amon-Ra St. Brown and Mike Evans, because you get that PPR stud in Amon-Ra St. Brown, then you get the touchdown yard stud in Mike Evans in round 2, I would love that. Now, if I'm towards the end of round 1, this is where it gets a little interesting for me. In the end of round 1, A.J. Brown is in play for me. Garrett Wilson is in play for me. I would love both of those guys at the end of round 1. I would take both of them. So I would go Garrett Wilson. I'm going to go back to the well there, thinking hopefully Aaron Rodgers is healthy. I think he can have a Devontae Adams Green Bay type season. And then A.J. Brown, he tailed off at the end of the season, but I still like A.J. Brown there. So I would do that as well. Now, would I go receiver, running back at the end of round 1? Let's say I go A.J. Brown and Garrett Wilson and then go a running back. Probably not. Travis Etienne. I'm not taking Derrick Henry, even though I did that video this morning. I do think he's going to have a ton of touchdowns. No. So, really, it's real easy for me, guys. It's Amon-Ra St. Brown with Mike Evans, or it's A.J. Brown with Garrett Wilson. That's it. I love Chris Olave. Hate Derek Carr. So that's kind of a tough deal for me. The tight ends, I'm not paying the sticker price on Trey McBride, even though he helped me win a league championship last year. I like Dalton Kincaid, but I think I'm going to end up, I think Kincaid's going to be overdrafted. I think I'm ending up with either Kyle Pitts or Evan Ingram. I'm fine with both of them. Hell, even Jake Ferguson, if I had to go value there and I don't have CeeDee Lamb, I would take Jake Ferguson as well. So I'm fine with all that. So I'm going to start doing mock drafts as well. I did a couple of live ones last year, so I might have to check that out again, do some of those. Let me know what you want me to do as well. The weekly live streams, I'm going to be doing that as well, so stay tuned for that. A lot of good stuff coming up, guys, so be a subscriber. And again, if you're new to the channel, during the season, when the games are being played, there will be 30 videos posted that day. All right. Now, those of you familiar, I'm sorry, I got to go over this again for the new people. But like I said, if somebody goes down injured and I have all the games, I will immediately post a video within a minute about what happened, the injury, how bad it looks, who's the next guy up. And then I will update it as we get more information, because sometimes guys go out injured, they come back in. But you'll have it from me first. I know that some of these sites, they put out a little two-sentence, all right, Bijan Robinson's headed to the sideline. I'm going to give you more detail than that. They're so quick about being the first 5 seconds after it happened. I'm going to take 30 to 60 seconds more, discuss what happened, and then update it. And then at the end of the night, we'll go through all the games as well. Live streams are usually Sunday morning after the injury report comes out. Certainly Football Friday. There's always a live stream Football Friday. And then Overreaction Monday as well. That's usually a stream as well. So there's going to be a lot of good stuff coming there. So anyway, guys, going to end it here. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. More of these coming soon. Again, enjoy 4th of July. Be safe. All right. Make sure you have all your fingers by the end of the day. And keep checking us out for more videos, guys. We will chat soon. Have a great day.